Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Student Loan Edition, though. I'm Megan, financial planner specialized in student loan planning, senior student loan consultant at Student Loan Planner, and we're going to thumb through Reddit today to talk through folks who have hundreds of thousands of student loan debt, what their situations look like, what they should maybe be thinking about, and how to move forward. Hi, babies. Hi, baby. Let's jump in. This Reddit post is from boring_pomegranate50. Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Loan Edition. I have $407,000 of private and federal student loans. Anyone else in this ballpark? Or am I a unicorn? It's only grown over the years because I haven't been able to pay on the principal. Literally, my only plan to repay at some point is make more money. Godspeed, fellow loan survivors. I am very curious what they went to school for and what their makeup of federal versus private student loans is. Hopefully, there's a minimum amount of private student loans, and the vast majority of it is federal because there's a lot more flexibility with the federal system having income-driven repayment plans. Private loans, they're just treated like private debt. We have to pay the loans off. Ideally, we get a lower interest rate to work that off sooner and pay less interest over time. So that would be my suggestion to this person for the private loans is refinance those if you can to try to get a lower interest rate. We have seen rates go down. I've been seeing between like 4.5% to 6% for interest rates for good credit if you can get a lower rate than what you have. The federal side of the equation, there's a lot more flexibility. If your balance on the federal student loan debt is greater than your current income situation, you may want to be considering a forgiveness path on an income-driven repayment plan versus paying those loans off. Some folks may have choked at this hundreds of thousands of dollars situation, but we commonly work with folks who have lots of student loan debt. So for example, medical professionals are the most indebted out there. So this is an idea of, the different professions that we've worked with, how many people in that profession we've worked with, and the average amount of debt that they carry. So you'll see physicians, dentists, veterinarians, they carry the higher amounts of student loan debt. So maybe this person is in the medical profession. Dentists do tend to be the highest, most indebted folks out there, especially as specialists. So we have general dentistry with an average of about $417,000 in student loan debt, where if you're looking at a specialist like an orthodontist, that's $621,000 on average, or a pediatric dentist at $466,000, or an endodontist would be closer to about $567,000. So dental specific school loans are going to be probably the most, but any other medical professional will also have a decent chunk of student loan debt. Lawyers as well, some of these other professions you'll see on here.
Wildly expensive.
Income-driven repayment options are a really great relief in the sense of it makes your payment affordable because it's tied to your income, and it has a maximum repayment period of either 20 or 25 years, depending on the income-driven plan that you're on. So once you make those income-driven payments for 20 or 25 years, whatever's left is then forgiven. We may have to pay taxes on that forgiven debt, so that's something that we factor into your student loan plan, but mathematically that could make a lot of sense compared to paying the loans off if we're just paying a fraction of what, in tax of what the balance was when it got forgiven. Boring_pomegranate50 did say that their goal is to make more income to tackle these student loans. That's, of course, another option. If your income is greater than what your balance is for the federal student loan side of things, then you'd want to pay the loans off sooner rather than later. So maybe that's where going and refinancing the federal side of things could make sense and could reduce your interest cost over time. But remember, refinancing your federal student loans is a permanent decision. You want to make sure it's the right decision before you go and do it. Refinancing private student loans that we already have, that's a no-brainer. As long as you can get a lower interest rate and terms that you feel good about, go for that because it's going to give you, some cost savings on the interest.
Save money?
Absolutely.
Sweaty-contract-7644 is next up here. Me as well. Started with $120,000, been in repayment 13 years now, and it's at $200,000. No hope for ever paying it off or it's to stop growing. I'm a physical therapist for reference, working 3 jobs, maxed out on income I will make. The PTs that we typically work with, on average, they have about $183,500 in student loan debt, so not cheap either. Folks who go to PT school typically do borrow just federal student loans because if you're going to grad school, you can borrow up to the cost of attendance. So same story as the situation before. If our balance is a lot greater than your income, which it probably is at 200,000 as a PT, then you would want to pursue that loan forgiveness route. There's a couple blog posts that we put together at studentloanplanner.com that could be super helpful. We'll link those in the description down below. The first one is about physical therapy school loans, the cost of school just really soaring. Let's see what some of the comments say. There's a whole cadre of very condescending people who don't seem to understand this. Like it's not simply paying them off and that you can't because the boat is filling up with more water. Yeah, I think totally true. There are so many people on the internet who do not mechanically understand student loans or federal student loans and how they operate, how interest does still accrue, even though we're making on-time payments.
It's a scam. It's a scam. And I refuse to be scammed.
Don't you want to scream when someone says they shouldn't have taken out loans that they couldn't pay back? Susan, Karen, come on. This is not the same situation as what it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. The cost of attendance has completely skyrocketed. And to be in these professions, you have to go to school. The school dictates the cost of attendance. And if you don't have another way to cover the cost of attendance other than borrowing loans, you're going to be stuck with these larger loan balances that we're talking about. Schools have figured it out. The cost of attendance is something that anybody could borrow as a graduate student. So what your uncle says or what, someone 20 years older than you says isn't really applicable to what you're going through. Next commenter is Cetera. I'm a veterinarian, don't have quite that high, only 330,000, but I feel your pain. Godspeed. And for veterinarians, our average debt balance that we typically see is 288,000 for the folks that we've worked with. But remember, averages are kind of dangerous, right? Because we've got some folks that have a lot lower than that in student loan debt, and we've got folks that have a lot higher than that. So averages might not always be the best number to look at. But vet school, among one of those for medical professionals, that does tend to be quite high upon graduation. Some of the commenters on this post said, my wife is at 267,000 last time I looked, also a veterinarian. Salaries aren't high enough for the debt you have to incur. And if you don't have rich parents to pay for vet school. These income-driven repayment plans are really helpful when it comes to having an end in sight, still having a cost-effective and affordable repayment plan that can tackle the loans over time to still allow you to do the things that you want to do in your life. Buy a home, start a family, buy a practice, or start a business. So these income-driven plans are really helpful there.
No. Don't put me on hold.
Typically, veterinarians are going to be going towards that income-driven forgiveness timeline as well, the longer-term taxable forgiveness that we've been talking about versus paying the loans off. We do have a podcast that could be cool to check out called Veterinary Financial Podcast that talks about financial planning and student loans, all related to folks in the veterinary profession, led by a current veterinarian herself, DVM Meredith Jones, and then her colleague David. And they're a great bunch. You should check it out if you have questions about finances and integrating your student loan plan into your financial planning journey. If you're straddled with a lot of student loan debt, you're not alone. Seriously consider one of the income-driven repayment plans. Income-based repayment is a plan that's written into legislation, not something that can go away very easily. We also have the pay-as-you-earn plan, ICR, income contingent repayment. All of these plans are off of a percentage of your income. So it makes the payment affordable so you could do the other things that you want to do in life, but also have a game plan to tackle the loans. If you need help, that's what we offer, one-on-one help. Check out Student Loan Planner if you want to walk through your game plan or your strategy to tackle these things. Drop a comment below. Tell us what amount of student loan debt that you have, what profession you're in, and what your plan of action is. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more content or information on these types of topics, student loan planning, integrated in with financial planning, and to stay up to date with the recent student loan stuff going on. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll catch you on the next one.